Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Nicole and Azan on 90 Day Fiancé. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. If you haven't known about this, we have been doing a podcast for 12 years on various different topics, including some of the topics that I talk about in this show. So if you haven't already listened to the podcast, you can subscribe to the podcast on your phone. You just go to a podcast app and you subscribe to our podcast and listen to over 1,000 different episodes. All right, let's get to the show.
Nicole and me are here like a month, and it's not always like good as we want it to be. We had a fight like many times, and I still see that we're not perfect,
Okay, so it sounds like the production crew wasn't with them the entire time, which makes sense. It's 2 months. And Azan is saying that they had a lot of fights, which is concerning. I wonder what those fights were about. I'm guessing they were probably repeats of previous fights, but maybe we'll find out.
Hello? Wake up. You're still sleeping. It's 2:45.
Yeah, I'm tired.
I know you're tired, but you have to get up. Sometimes we go to sleep in the same time, but I wake early. So I go to gym, and when I back, I found her like sleeping till 3 p.m. or 4 p.m.
So there's that word lazy again. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know how Nicole takes that. I'm sure it's hurtful. But so we're learning more about Nicole here, that at least he's saying she sleeps until 3 or 4 p.m. And from the sound of it, they go to bed at the same time, according to him. So, maybe that's 9 o'clock, even midnight. So what would that mean? Well, some people need to sleep a lot. Nothing unusual there. But often this can be an indication of depression or an underlying medical issue. Of course, I have no way to know what that is, or even if there is an issue there with Nicole. Maybe Nicole just likes to stay in bed. But I wouldn't be surprised if depression wasn't at least a factor. It's frequently a element when people are sleeping that much. Of course, like I said, it could be just a preference to sleep a lot, or it could be a medical issue. Or maybe she has trouble sleeping for one reason or another, and she has to take a lot of naps. I don't know. Maybe we'll get some more information.
It's really important for me that you could do stuff like this, like walking, hiking.
I know, and that's why I'm trying for you and for myself.
I know, but I heard that the last time.
Yikes. Like I've always been saying, there's nothing wrong with a partner wanting their partner to be happy, to be healthy. There's nothing wrong with thinking, well, maybe they should exercise more for their health. It's another thing to put this amount of pressure and to give all these messages of shame, which is just totally uncool. Now, we have a society, I don't know about Moroccan society, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have at least an element of this. At least in my society, I know that there's just a tremendous amount of shame for people with bodies that don't conform to a very narrow set of criteria. When you have been given all those messages, it can sometimes feel justified or okay to shame someone else, because it's like, well, you're supposed to shame people for doing those kinds of things. And sometimes I like to point out what shame is useful for, because sometimes I wonder if people, when I talk about how we should question the shame messages that we get from society and be very careful about shaming messages that we give to other people. Sometimes I worry that people are like, oh yeah, of course, a therapist, they always think that shame is bad, but we all understand that shame is good. Well, I agree. Shame is good. If someone decides to hurt someone on purpose, like if someone walks up to my mother and steals her purse and pushes her down, then that criminal deserves to be shamed. Shame is a useful social mechanism to put people in line. And I'm quite sure that we have developed this mechanism of shame early on in our evolution as a social creature to help to keep things under control, to help provide civility and help to guide people's behavior as to what is ethical and moral and what isn't. If someone steals, you shame them. If someone hurts someone, you shame them. If someone throws a rock at someone's head, you shame them. Someone steals your food, you shame them. Okay. Under most circumstances, I'm behind that shame as a way of telling people, no, you're not supposed to do that. Shaming someone for the way that they look, shaming someone for the skin of their, the color of their skin, the skin of their color, shaming someone for not working out a lot. These sorts of things are a far cry from shaming someone for pushing my mother down and stealing her purse, right? So shame is good, but let's delineate between moral shame or morally right shame or right-headed shame and wrong-headed shame. That is just a cultural story we tell ourselves that it's okay to shame certain people.
I know it's hard for you, but every day I really wish that you can change your mind, and really I want you to do this stuff.
I won't try.
Like you sleep till 3 p.m.
The reason I sleep late is because, Mace doesn't sleep sometimes at night. She's hungry, so I feed her. I have to change her all the time. I'm the one who takes care of her, and I just get tired sometimes.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. I'm surprised I didn't think of that earlier, that could be a factor. Now, I will say that if it's every day and it's waking up at 3 or 4 o'clock, then maybe there's something that could be done to help May to regulate her schedule. But, some kids, it's just really hard for them to sleep throughout the night, and you have to do what you can. But I wonder if that isn't really that much of a factor, and Nicole is just using that to cover up something, maybe depression. I don't know. Let's see if they talk more about it.
What if I go to America and, I see that you can do this stuff or you don't want to change?
Okay, what if I don't do this stuff? Does that mean you don't want to be with me if I can't do it in the future? Is that like a deal breaker for you?
The words right out of my mouth, Nicole. This is perfect. That's a great question. And that's a very fair question, and it's just that she is asking that question. Okay, what if? What if I can't? Because she's saying that she doesn't mind exercising, and she kind of wants to exercise, but all this pressure and these messages of you're not good enough and you're lazy and I'm going to shame you. And what she's saying is, okay, on one hand, yeah, I do want to exercise, but it's kind of hard given my schedule and maybe some other issues. But that's for me, so get off my back. But okay, let's say that I don't have time for it. Let's say that doesn't happen. What does that mean to you? Is that all I am to you? Is just someone to work out next to you? Or do you love me for who I am? Do you love me as I am? Who I am? Do you love me? It's a very good question.
When I talk to Nicole about being healthy, she always thinks that it's not my right. I think it's my right if I ask her to lose weight.
Yeesh. I think it's my right if I ask her to lose weight. Well, so is this a cultural thing? I have no idea what Moroccan culture is like. I know enough about cultural differences to understand that I don't always have a gauge on what is morally okay. My dog's barking. I think he probably wants to go outside. Hopefully my wife will hear that. Because I'm in the middle of reacting to this right now. Is that a cultural component? Because I do know, as an Asian person, there are different ideas of what people feel like they have the right to do. In some cultures, there is absolutely this belief that family members have the right to criticize weight or job or all sorts of decisions that other people make in one's family. In Seattle culture, or we say mainstream American culture, I don't know, is this notion of personal freedom. We have this idea that we have the freedom to do what we want to, and no one has the right to tell us otherwise. Now, it's nuanced, and there's a lot of gray area there, but that is a cultural norm in the United States and is particular to the United States, maybe to North America, maybe to Western society. I don't know. Now, just because something's cultural doesn't mean that it's okay. And I know enough about culture to know that I would have to engage in a discourse with people in Morocco, with people in my culture, and we'd have to suss that out. What is the good? What is the moral good of what he is saying right now? I think it's my right if I ask her to lose weight. So I'd be willing to enter into a conversation about that. But I suspect, or at least in my culture, it is not anyone's right to ask someone to lose weight or to tell someone to lose weight or to pressure them to change who they are. People have the right to have the body that they have and to have the body that they want to have and to do what they want without other people telling them what to do, especially when it comes to that. I'm sort of glad he said it because he's been operating like this for a long time, and he just put it out there. And instead of making us guess as an audience and making Nicole guess as a partner, now Nicole knows, oh, okay, well, if that's what you're operating on, then we have a problem. Because for Nicole, she's like, you don't have the right to do that to me. And well, he didn't say that to her. He said that in an interview. So maybe Nicole still doesn't know this. Anyway, let's continue watching.
If I want her to marry me and she wants me to marry her, I think we have right to each other to see this stuff.
Sorry that I don't work out every day with you, but you know that I never worked out before at all. So from going from that to doing a few things with you is something. So that's what you should be appreciative of and support me on.
Yeah, I'm with Nicole on this one. She is saying, look, I'm doing things that I want to do, that I'm willing to do, that are in line with what you want me to do. And you should be happy with that. So, I think that that's fair, really.
I made promises that you broke too, okay? But I don't make a huge deal about them.
I just wish that you're gonna show me more, because that's very important to me. And if I go to America, I want things to be okay.
I guess we'll just have to see in America. You just have to trust me.
My trust issue is really hard right now. Nicole, she promised me that she will work out and eat healthy things, and she didn't do it.
Yeah, he keeps saying this, that it's some kind of obligation that she has to him because she promised him. It's not one of those promises that usually is in the same category as a promise of staying faithful to someone. I promise I will not have sex with other people. Well, that's a promise that you can usually say, yeah, if you break that promise, my God, we're going to have a problem. Or I promise to never leave you, that kind of thing. Or I promise that I won't lie to you about X, Y, and Z. But a promise made of yeah, I promise I'm going to try to eat healthier and I'm going to try to work out all the time. Most people would agree that that promise isn't really in the same category. Now, it is the word promise, so I don't know how the two of them had that. I don't think we were there when they had that conversation where she promised that. But at least that's what I would think most people would conclude, including people in Azan's position of just well, she promised, but she was probably just saying that because I was pressuring her all the time. I think most people would understand that. So I think he's just using that promise as this excuse to promote this idea that he has the right to pressure her so hard on changing her body, which I think is just really awful.
And if I see that she can change about eating good food or sleep late or stuff like this, it's I feel like she even can change about cheating or being with guys.
Okay, so I'll give him that she did cheat on him 1.5 times essentially, and he has trust issues. He worries that he can't trust her, and he's looking for evidence that he can trust her. And that is a thing, that when you have that trust injured, you're looking for consistency. You're looking for, do I know you? When you say things, do you actually do them? So I could see him being kind of sensitive about that, for sure. I could see him being very sensitive about trust in general, and I could see him applying that trust sensitivity to this so-called promise that she was going to change her eating habits and her working out habits. That makes a little sense to me. But again, it kind of seems like he's just using that as an excuse to hammer on her about something that he feels like he, quote unquote, has the right to do.
I worry if I go to America that she will never change. I worry so much.
You worry so much that she's never going to change. Well, yeah, she has said as much. She has said, I might not ever change. At least I thought she said that at least once, if not twice. And there's obviously been a lot of conversations. So, man, dude, like, what, like, what's going on here? Are you in love with an idea of a person and not the person? It's interesting because he seems so into it on one level. Now, I know some people out there think, well, he's just in it for the green card, and he doesn't really love her for who she is. I don't know. We can't get inside his head. At least at this point, he hasn't said as much. So it's just interesting. So one, he would feel like he has the right to tell her how to eat and what to do with her body. And that two, he is like so worried that she's not going to change when it's not likely she's going to change that much. She might, maybe she will, but there's a good chance she won't. And so you're worrying about something that is likely going to happen, pal.
فهمتي المهم انا راه هي فهمتي الامور عندي صعيبه شويه ما عرفتش الا صار كنمشي ليه ديما ولكن مع البنيه الصغيره
وي
نمشي البنيه الصغيره
ما ساهلاش
كتغوت بالليل والصباح ما يمكنش تفيق بكري ما يمكنش ديها معاك لاصال
كتفيق بالليل
ضروري مره كنبدل ليها انا دوك الكوش ديالها مره هي
صافي انت كتريني دابا.
All right, so there is nothing wrong with being a new kind of stepdad and having some frustrations and needing to vent with your friend about what it's like to be a new stepdad. Every parent out there, if you don't vent about your kids, I worry about you. So I hope that you have people to talk to. And so that's what he's doing. And I wonder if people watch this would think, oh, he is cold and he doesn't really care about May and he doesn't really care about Nicole. Now, maybe, but there's nothing wrong with wanting to go out, have, a time with a friend and get out of the house. But usually you work that out between the two of you of just like, well, you can do things and then I'll do things. There also is another element to this, which is that Nicole and May are going to Morocco for 2 months to be with him. So it is a bit of a strange thing during those 2 months for him to say, I've got to get out of the house. But, it's not, I didn't show it, but the two of them had a conversation and it didn't go horribly.
باش تمشي لامريكا تكون تريني تبدل لي كوش نتريني دير كل شيء
في امريكا الوقت داكشي ضروري فهمتي هكا واقيلا انا هكا كتقول لي بلي ضروري تما فهمتي
هذه المساله هذه في العالم كله هذه خاص المراه تعاون الراجل.
That's interesting. So he's saying in America the husbands have to actually help the wives. And then his friend's like, well, that's kind of everywhere. The husbands should always help the wives. Now, as I often say, I actually loathe the term helping of the wives. The implication is the wife is supposed to do the majority of the work, and, the husband helps out sometimes. That is a misogynistic, sexist, awful, horrific idea. Now, in the olden times, when the division of labor was such that the man worked literally 70 hours a week, he couldn't really do much to help out at home. And when he came home, maybe he just needed to relax a little bit. That doesn't mean that the wife wasn't also working 70 hours a week or more, but there was a reason as to why there was that understanding, if you will, to divide up the labor that way. Not every couple was like that. Not every society was like that, but there have been those traditions. But with the two of them is that Nicole works. So you don't have that situation to justify the notion that men don't have to do housework. So it sounds like Azan's friend is setting him straight on that.
انت باغي تمشي لامريكا؟
واش عرفتي والله العظيم الا الحاجه الوحيده اللي خايف منها انا مثلا مشيت لامريكا اول حاجه هو فهمتي اول حاجه هي شنو نقول لك ديك نلقى مشكل مع الثقافه ديالي تما فهمتي ما كايناش. انا عرفت بلي عائلتي كتجيهم صعيبه بلي كيصحاب واش غادي نشدها زعما باش تصني لتما ولا ولكن انا عارف باللي غادي لتما حيت هي بغاتني نمشي لتما انايا فهمتي ما راه اصلا هنا فين بغينا نجلس.
Okay, interesting. So I always like it when we get more details or we're given the opportunity to learn more things about the people on the show. He's saying that he's worried about going to the United States and having his culture being not only ignored but even ridiculed by Americans, which I have to say is likely to happen. So he's expressing that worry, which I think is totally justified. And then he's also saying that he's saying that her family is saying that he only wants to marry her because he wants to go to America, but he's saying, I actually love Morocco and I don't want to leave. Is that what he's saying? Let's rewind that.
ما فهمتي ما كايناش. انا عرفت بلي عائلتها كتجي صعيبه بلي كيصحى غادي نشدها زعما باش تستنى لتما ولكن انا عارف باللي غادي لتما حيت هي بغاتني نمشي لتما انايا فهمتي ما راه اصلا هنا فين بغينا نجلس ولكن ما بغاتش.
كيبغي الوقت وكيبغي يتسع الخاطر وكيبغي بزاف ديال الحاجات.
كون اوبن مايند.
All right, so that's interesting. I mean, maybe he's lying in this instance because he knows the cameras are filming, but it sounded credible to me that he would really like to stay in Morocco, which makes a lot of sense. And for him to go to the United States is kind of a hardship, or could be a great hardship. And he is only doing it because he is in love with Nicole. Is that what I'm hearing? I'm not quite sure. I think that's what I'm hearing.
You know, I know that we fight, you know, we keep fighting all the time. So I'm afraid to go to America and, like, if I go there, maybe things, like, it's not change or, like, will be like this.
I wish we could talk about things with me and Azan. I wish he was home right now. Things have been rocky, and I just wish you'd just sit and talk with me instead of getting frustrated and not talking and shutting down. And it's really annoying because I just need him to talk to me. I just need to talk. That's it.
Okay, so as I was saying earlier, they were saying that they got in a lot of fights and they haven't shown us what those fights are. If I was to take a stab in the dark, I would, given what she just said, that he shuts down, that they are now doing a preoccupied avoidant dance, a pursuer distancer dance, where they are hurting each other's feelings and both scared and hurt and feeling like the other person doesn't really care about them, both people, you know, triggering each other. And instead of communicating that hurt and that worry, they are resorting to their attachment style coping, maladaptive coping, which is for, I'm guessing Nicole does her bulldozing style or starts to say things that are hurtful to him, with sprinkling in some healthy language because she can do that at times. And then he will shut down and pull away, and then she is hurt and she pursues and he shuts down and he moves away. And I'm just guessing that's what it looked like, which is upsetting to me because, not because I want the couple to be together, because I don't care. It's up to them as to whether or not they want to be together. But it saddens me to see couples hurt each other and create narratives about the other person that are very negative when it could have been salvaged, it could have been stopped, it could have been redirected if they just understood how to get in touch with their feelings and communicate that in a healthy way. Anyway, I think we're at the end of the episode, but let's see what happens here.
It doesn't even have to be some crazy big describing words. I just need him to just talk to me about us and stuff.
So when I hear that she probably is just looking for reassurance that he loves her. That's usually what that means. I don't know, but that's usually what that means. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. As always, you should not be using these videos for a replacement for therapy. If you need a therapist, make sure you get one. You really deserve that. And please take care of yourself and take care of other people because we all deserve it. We really, really do.